This is Team Selfie with Strangers Code Walkthrough. I'm Zach May, and you'll be hearing from each person in our group as we go through our code. First, we're talking with Bruce about some general code about our website.
Cool. So I'm going to be talking about two things. The first one is how our code actually gets deployed. So here on the left side, we can see our Selfie with Strangers project repository. And the key bit is that this is hooked up to GitHub so that when we push, there's this travis.yaml file, which will run some scripts, which run this Ansible thing, which actually deploy the site. So we can go and we can look at the app, which is not this script. And it does a bunch of stuff, like it sets up the firewall rules, and it installs Git, and it checks out the repo and restarts the service and does all this stuff so that whenever we push something to GitHub, it gets automatically deployed to the site. So that's pretty useful for debugging stuff. The other sort of nifty thing is how a request actually works in Selfie with Strangers. So first, a request arrives at the app. Here's the main app file. Let's take a look, not at that. At the questions adding and listing, which is, so there's this admin controller over here. Then we go over to the admin controller, which is here and here, and then the question ones is over here. And there's a bunch of different routes. So a request will come in, like this one will list out all the questions, and we call to the Selfie client, which then makes a call to the API, which is over here. The API is a Flask app written in Python, and the questions controller is over here. So a request will come in for the list. It'll come into the app in that route we just saw, and then it'll come here and it'll list it out to the database and return it as JSON. And that's how a request in the Selfie with Strangers works.
Now we're talking with Alex about the camera JavaScript and how that works.
In HTML5, there's a video tag. Using the getUserMedia API, we can add our video to it to be streamed. This is not supported by all web browsers, but for example in Firefox, we can do it. When we have a pose that we like, we can take a picture of it. It's like a screenshot of the current video, and we append it to the current pictures that are available to choose from. Finally, when a picture is ready to be chosen and sent to the server, we encode it in base 64, do another check to make sure it's going to be small enough to be received by the server, and then it's ready to be sent by the hidden input box of the form.
And now we're going to talk to Caleb about the geolocation JavaScript.
So this is a JavaScript file that will get the geolocation for the user. When the page, our home page is first loaded, this get location is called, and this will use the navigator object, which contains information about the browser. It will call this get current position function, taking the get coordinates and show error callback functions. And get coordinates will set our global latitude and longitudes to the user's current position. And this show error is an optional callback that will display errors if there are any. Now when the DOM is loaded, an event listener is added to this invisible or hidden form on our home page, and it will set the longitude and latitude for the user, and then this form will send a post request to our app. It's a /matching route.
And now we're here with Wesley to talk about the code that makes the site look the way it does.
Okay, I have a header and footer file included in every single file to make it consistent throughout every single file. I use Bootstrap to structure the HTML files, give them a grid system. So I've implemented a JavaScript where the buttons only show when the image is taken.
So we start by taking somebody's location data when they ask to be entered into the pool, and then the first thing we do is check if there's somebody available for them to match with. If so, we match them. Otherwise, they are put into a waiting status, and there's a service elsewhere in the code that calls a function that matches everybody currently in a waiting status up, and returns the people they've matched and the leftover people. It ranks in terms of choosing a location. It ranks them by how far away they are from both users and picks the one that results in the shortest walking distance for the furthest user, and then it ranks the locations that way and returns a list of them. And so if one location gets turned down, it just goes down the list until both people agree on a location. And the walking time is just a very basic approximation by taking the distance from each person to the location and dividing that by average human walking speed times per second times 60 for 60 seconds, so we can get like an approximate minutes of walking.